Today we're going to really look at a little bit more in the nuts and bolts of what you actually do to set up services and how you get started with your service catalog. The last time we talked about business case and business justification. Today we're getting more into the practical side of it. I'm Barclay Ray. I'm Global Head of Services at Axios. With a team of consultants and trainers, we implement our solution and ITSM in general. And joined today by Brian Henry, who's our Service Development Manager, who's responsible for making sure that we continue to come up with new and innovative services to support our product set. What we're going to do this afternoon, depending where you are, we're going to talk through a number of topics, and as we do that, you will have some questions asked of you during the session. These will be very simple questions to answer from a pick list, and they will give us some information about what sort of things you're doing, what kind of issues you've got, etc. And we get real-time information back about that, so we can actually share that with you during the webcast, and hopefully that can add some value in terms of the quality of our discussion. The other thing is that you are perfectly at liberty to ask us questions. You'll see on your screen there's an opportunity for you to submit questions, and again we get them real time, so we can pick out a few and answer them for you during the webcast. So I hope you enjoy and get some value out of this session. We're ready to go now. I'm just going to highlight the points we're going to cover. A little bit about what Service Catalog actually is, and if you joined the last session we had detail on that, but I think it's useful just to cover off for those that didn't join, just so that we understand we're all on the same page about what a Service Catalog is, and there's lots of debate in the industry about that. What do we mean by services? That's really looking at fairly self-explanatory, but it's good to really understand what we're talking about by services. And we're not just thinking about that from an IT perspective or a systems perspective. Then differentiating between services and offerings. Offerings basically are subsets of services, but in the Service Catalog world it's got quite a specific meaning. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to actually get started and get involved with your customers, with the rest of IT, and how we design and structure our services. So that's our agenda for today. Just kicking off quickly, a little bit about where we are as an organization. We've been in the IT service management space for over 20 years, very much coinciding with the growth and development of ITIL, and that now means, although we're based out of the UK, we have a lot of territory coverage in North America, Europe, Australia, and so on. And we've also recently just launched our version 9 of our product, which includes an extensive, fully functional front and back office service catalog. We also have now a software as a service offering, but more information of that is available on our website. I'm going to talk now a little bit about what a service catalog actually is. Just a couple of slides to provide some context, the background, before I hand over to Brian on that. We're used to, in all the areas that we work in, using brochures and glossy magazines and nice front ends on portals on websites. We're all familiar with that kind of experience now, and I think there's no reason why IT shouldn't be doing the same thing. So I think what we're talking about with the Service Catalog at the user end is a similar experience to, for example, Amazon.com or similar retail experience, that it's intuitive, it's got pictures, it doesn't patronize the user by asking them lots of IT questions that they don't understand. It's simple. I want to order, I want to log a new start, I want to log a desktop fault, whatever. And I think that's what we're talking about at the front end of a service catalog. Round the back and the back office part really is combining two areas. One that we should probably have already in place one way or another, our configuration management system, which contains information about our IT assets, our IT infrastructure, our IT intelligence, if you like, how it all hangs together. But that doesn't tell us anything about the business and the services that are required to support that. And that's what the service catalog does, because it starts to bundle up in a kind of supply chain the components, the CIs from the CMS, and turns them into service bundles, turns them into services that relate to the business and the organization, and that IT can then work on and report against and prioritize, differentiate, all those kind of things that we don't really do from a business perspective. So the service catalog provides the business intelligence around what IT does, whereas the CMDB provides the IT intelligence. How that's reflected in terms of what a service catalog is, and certainly over the years my experience of building these is that you end up with a bit of momentum by thinking about services and then putting them into a spreadsheet, but it doesn't go any further. What we're now looking at with certainly with our tool set and others out there is a multi-function, multi-level system or approach that allows us to provide information and reporting as appropriate to different parts of our organization. So the user request view, which is basically the portal view that I suggested to you a minute ago, that identifies, that is there for the end user and provides them the opportunity to buy or order services. But there's also the business view, which is for the business customer, and in ITIL terms, the person that signs the SLA, the guy who pays the check. He or she is not really interested in just the experience of how to use the system, but they want to know what it costs, what the kind of terms that we have set up with them, and how well we're performing against that. And that's where things like demand management as well as performance management come into play. But again, they don't want that information in IT terms, whereas at the bottom end, the technical, the IT department, they need to know a whole pile of stuff about the service, the supply chain, and all three areas need different types of information, and they need it provided to them in a way that's relevant to them. And I think that's what we're seeing. Some of the publications over the last year have really focused on those three levels or components within a service catalog. So that's very much the service catalog definition in the background. Now you'll see on your screen that the first set of questions is there. I'm going to introduce Brian Hendry now, who's going to take you forward to talk about services. You'll see also the questions that you've been asked are relating to whether or not you think you have good systems and good service, or good systems and poor service, or good systems, good service and poor systems. But either way, I think what we want is to be getting into that top quadrant there. Looking at the scoring that's coming in at the moment, 41%, majority are still saying good systems, poor service. That's very much par for the course. People are good at IT, but maybe not so much, maybe not so good at the stuff in the background. So thank you for your input on that. I'm now going to hand over to Brian Hendry, and Brian's going to talk through what we think services are and how we would then structure and build services and offerings into a service catalogue. Brian.
Thank you, Barclay. As Barclay said, my name is Brian Hendry. I'm the Service Development Manager for Access Systems, really with the responsibility, as Barclay said, of making sure that we are able to offer services to our customers that they need. And over the past year or so, we've been spending quite a considerable amount of time actually looking at services and service catalogues and the services we can offer in that area. Going back to the slide, really the first thing we're going to talk about here is what's called developing a service focus. And really what we're looking at here is that historically IT has always considered itself to be responsible for building and supporting the IT infrastructure, the kit, the actual bits of kit that we actually have in our IT infrastructure. But it's a bit like the train operators a few years ago, where they thought that their primary responsibility was actually simply to move trains around from point A to point B to point C around the country. The fact that people wanted to get on and off at different times really was just a huge inconvenience. And with IT, we've often felt in many ways that we are the same. We run and support IT. The fact, IT kit, and the fact that people want to use these at different times really is just making our job much, much harder. But as IT, we must realize that that's what we're here for. We're here to actually provide services to our customers. We're not here just to support the kit or just to install the kit. That kit is only there because it provides services to our customer base. And we've got to realize that. We've got to realize that IT's prime responsibility isn't supporting kit. It's supporting the services and the customers who use those services. The quadrants that we have here, again, Barclay alluded to, we did the small poll on, quite often you'll find that some systems are poor within an organization, but the level of support for them is actually very good. So they appear to be delivering, although they are very expensive. Other systems may be very good, but they take a long time to fix when they go wrong, because either we don't have the right people, the tools, or the processes. Maybe they're just too complicated. So it's really about understanding the services we provide and having the necessary processes, products, and people in place to support those services professionally, responsibly, and when the customer actually needs them. And part of this really is the IT and the business need to establish firm lines of communication and to develop a strong working relationship. If this is going to work, IT and the business need to be in partnership here and talking and communicating at every possible level. Perhaps a good example of this then is when we start looking at things like the airline business. Most of us travel on flights and planes and travel through airports. And I don't know if many of us have actually ever thought about the huge number of components and resources and processes required to provide a single flight. There's huge amounts of kit that need to be provided. There's complex and shared services provided by the airlines and airports to many different organizations, such as baggage handling and catering. All of those components are absolutely essential if we as customers are to experience a good flight. And as customers, what are we really interested in? I suppose it's really just getting from A to B safely and on time. That's all we really care about. But from the airlines and the airports perspective, there's a huge number of components and things that need to be done to make sure that happens. And we need to understand that as IT, that from our customers' perspective, they don't really care about all the components and infrastructure that we have to support to provide those services to them. They are just simply interested in getting the services when they need and performing the way they actually want them to. There's a slide here really that just re-emphasizes that point. With IT services, none of our customers care if a server is up 99.8% of the time if the service that runs on it isn't available when they actually need it. And IT, or IT service management, changes the focus to ensure that we understand that, IT understand that, and meet those business priorities. So IT needs to understand the services the customer needs, but also needs to understand the criticality and the priority of those services. Because the business won't need all services at the same level of criticality all the time. Some services will vary in the priority and criticality, and we need to understand that. And again, historically, IT have been quite poor at understanding those business priorities. And that all comes back again to this relationship, establishing this relationship between IT and the business so that we can begin to understand what the business priorities are. And as I said earlier, these will change. It's not going to be static. These will change on a periodic basis, perhaps weekly or monthly, and we've got to understand that if we can provide the services the business need when they actually need it. We talk about service bundles here in life cycle, and we've got to really again understand that a service or services will be made from a number of different IT components and processes. They will be made from a number of different parts of the IT kit, and we need